Close your eyes for a second and imagine the night sky. Most of us picture bright stars connected by lines. Orion's belt, the Southern Cross, maybe the Pleiades. But now, open your eyes. Look up into the Milky Way from the southern hemisphere and picture something else. A gigantic, dark bird stretched across the river of stars. This is the Emu in the sky, a constellation not drawn with stars at all, but carved out of the black dust between them. For tens of thousands of years, Aboriginal Australians have looked up and seen an emu there, a celestial guide that tells when to hunt, when to gather, when to celebrate, and when to stay home. Over the next half hour, we're going to step into their world, into stories that weave together astronomy, mythology, and the land. Stick around to learn how this dark constellation shaped seasons, ceremonies, and songs, and why modern science is only just beginning to appreciate its depth. Don't forget to like the video, drop a comment about whether you've seen the emu in the sky yourself, and subscribe for more journeys into the southern cosmos. Most of us were taught to recognize constellations as patterns of stars, dot-to-dot drawings in the sky. European sailors drew crosses and centaurs. Greek poets saw gods and heroes. But indigenous Australians had a very different way of reading the heavens. They looked at the dark patches in the Milky Way and saw shapes formed by absence rather than presence. These dark constellations, animals, serpents, people, are created not by connecting stars, but by tracing the smoky bands of dust and gas that cut through the starlight. The emu in the sky is perhaps the most famous of these. Instead of shimmering stars, its body is the dark shadow of dust, its head the Coal-Sack Nebula near the Southern Cross, and its long legs stretching towards Scorpius. To Aboriginal people across Australia, this dark silhouette is more than a picture. It's a calendar, a reminder of lore, a storyteller, and a link between earth and sky. As children, many of us learned stories of Orion and the Big Dipper. But we rarely hear how ancient Australians read the night. Today's video changes that. We'll explore the emu's place in Aboriginal dreaming stories, how it acts as a seasonal clock, where you can see it in rock art, and how modern astronomers are learning from these traditional knowledge systems. We'll also follow experiences of elders and astronomers who grew up under these skies, share analogies that make this cosmic emu easy to picture, and weave in historical facts and modern discoveries. By the end, you'll never look at the Milky Way the same way again. For Aboriginal peoples, the night sky is alive with ancestors and animals whose stories explain the world. The emu in the sky appears in many Dreamtime tales, each reflecting the language and landscape of the group telling it. One Wiradjuri elder from central New South Wales once explained that the Milky Way is a great river, and the dark nebulae are creatures within it. In their story, a mighty emu spirit called Gawargai was formed when he, the Sun Woman, hunted the emu and threw its spirit into the river of the sky. Its head became the Coal-Sack Nebula near the Southern Cross, its neck and body stretched through Centaurus, and its legs reached towards the galactic bulge in Scorpius. It wasn't a static figure painted once. The emu was said to move through the seasons, telling people when to act and when to wait. Another story comes from the Kamilaroi and Ualai people. Senior lawman Gilla Michael Anderson grew up hearing about Gawargai. He recalls being taught that when the emu first appears at dusk in April, its head rises first, signaling the start of the mating season. By May, the body follows, and the emu looks like a female emu chasing a male, a cue that eggs will soon be laid. According to the story, by June the emu is lying full length along the horizon, just like a male emu incubating a clutch of eggs in a nest. This is not coincidence or romanticism. It's an example of how intimately Aboriginal knowledge ties the sky to animal behavior. Elders taught that each stage in the emu's journey across the sky reflected stages in the earthly emu's breeding cycle. If you're not familiar with emus, here's a quick analogy. Picture an ostrich, but uniquely Australian. A flightless bird taller than a grown man, with powerful legs and a curious gaze. Unlike most birds, emus are polygamous. The female lays several clutches of eggs in a season and leaves them. The male then takes over, incubating the eggs for 2 months and raising the chicks. For communities living on country, understanding when emus laid eggs was essential for survival. The sky provided that knowledge, wrapped in a story that linked cosmic happenings with events on the ground. Hearing those stories around a campfire, a young Kamilaroi child would see the emu in the sky's neck rise and know that eggs were on the way. It's like a celestial weather forecast, but one told through myth and memory. The emu isn't alone in these Dreamtime tales. It often interacts with other characters: crocodiles that lurk in the Milky Way river, a kangaroo that runs alongside, or a serpent that coils nearby. In some versions, the emu is chased by hunters or transforms into the rainbow serpent. These variations illustrate how dreaming stories aren't static. They evolve with the storyteller, weaving environment, law, and morality together. What they share is the recognition of the dark emu as a powerful being whose movements in the sky influence daily life. When we hear these tales told by elders today, it's clear they're not relics. They are living narratives that continue to teach and to bind people to country. Imagine living in a world without printed calendars, phone reminders, or weather apps. For tens of thousands of years, Aboriginal Australians used the sky as their clock and compass. The emu in the sky served as a seasonal calendar. Its orientation at dusk told people what was happening in the landscape and what tasks should be performed. Let's walk through the year through the eyes of the emu. In April and May, just after sunset, the head and neck of the emu in the sky appear above the eastern horizon. Elders say this looks like a female emu running, chasing a male to mate. On the ground, this is when emus begin pairing up. People knew that eggs would soon be available, but it wasn't yet time to gather them. The birds were still laying. In early June, the emu's body is visible, lying along the Milky Way like a bird stretched on a nest. This corresponds with the male emu settling down to incubate eggs, which takes about 56 to 59 days. The sky tells watchers eggs are being incubated. They'll soon be ready for collection. But be careful not to disturb the fathers too soon. By July, the emu is high in the sky, lying roughly horizontal to the horizon. In many regions, this is prime time for collecting eggs. The chicks inside are not yet developed. Families head out to gather, working together and often sharing the catch at communal feasts. The story emphasizes respect for the emu. Only certain eggs are taken, never more than needed. As the Milky Way rotates through August and September, the emu becomes vertical, standing upright on the southern horizon. Elders interpret this as the male emu standing on the nest, signifying that the chicks have hatched. It's now too late to take eggs. Gathering stops to ensure future generations of emus and maintain balance. At this time, another sign appears. When the emu and the imaginary kangaroo begin to set, the dark patches around Scorpius transform into crocodiles. The belly of the emu becomes the head of the first crocodile. Peoples from northern New South Wales interpret this as a time when crocodiles, spiritually, not physically, there are no crocodiles there in reality, become active in stories. Ceremonies take place to mark the change of seasons, often including initiation rites for young men. Knowing when to hold these rites requires a careful reading of the sky. By October and November, the emu's legs disappear below the horizon and the head follows. The dark bird is no longer visible. This signals that the emu breeding cycle is over, and the community must now prepare for summer foods and tasks. The change prompts elders to teach children different songs and stories. In this way, the emu in the sky provided a year-long mnemonic. Its posture told when to hunt, when to harvest, when to celebrate and when to rest. It's like a living calendar written across the night, aligning ecological knowledge with cultural lore. Modern science has confirmed the brilliance of this system. Astronomers like Dwayne Hamaker note that the emu's phases line up remarkably well with real emu behavior and climate patterns. When we talk about sustainability today, we can learn a lot from these ancient calendar stories. The sky isn't the only place where the emu appears. Across Australia, rock engravings, stone arrangements and ceremonial grounds align with the emu in the sky. One of the most famous sites is at Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park, north of Sydney. Here, on a sandstone platform at Elvina Track, an Aboriginal engraving depicts an emu. Archaeologists and Indigenous custodians notice something special. At certain times in April and May, the dark emu in the sky sits directly above the engraving. The position of the carved bird on the ground matches the celestial emu's orientation, suggesting that the engraving may have been designed as an annual reminder for when to collect eggs and when to start initiation ceremonies. Standing at the Elvina site on a clear autumn evening, you can witness this alignment. A cultural guide might point out how the Coalsack Nebula sits just above the engraved emu's head and how the Milky Way arcs along the ridge. It's like watching an ancient movie projector align sky and earth. This isn't the only example. In Western Victoria, the stone arrangement called Wurdi Yuang aligns with the sun's setting positions at the solstices and equinoxes. Some researchers believe that stones may also point towards the emu's rising point. Other Bora ceremonial grounds in Queensland are oriented so that the Milky Way arches overhead like a rainbow serpent or emu during initiation rites. A Yolngu tradition from Arnhem Land describes a man who carries ancestral songs between the bright and dark areas of the Milky Way, crossing at the riverbanks. These rock and stone markers blur the line between art, science, and spirituality. They functioned as teaching tools, as calendars and as ritual spaces. When colonists arrived, many were destroyed or ignored. Today, Indigenous elders and archaeologists work together to preserve and interpret these sites. Walking among the engravings with a torch and listening to a custodian explain how the emu in the sky rises above, one realizes how much knowledge is embedded in the landscape. It's a humbling reminder that Australia's first astronomers weren't peering through telescopes. They were lying on stone platforms, reading the stars with naked eyes and etching those readings into the ground for future generations. For a long time, Western astronomers overlooked or dismissed Indigenous sky knowledge. The constellations taught in schools are mostly Greek. The textbooks rarely mention dark constellations. But over the last few decades, scholars have begun to recognize that Aboriginal astronomy is rich, systematic, and scientifically valuable. The article, A Cultural Comparison of the Dark Constellations in the Milky Way, notes that cultures throughout the world, especially in the Southern Hemisphere, have long observed shapes in the dark areas of the Milky Way. These dark constellations often represent animals of cultural significance and are connected to their knowledge systems. The emu in the sky is perhaps the best known Aboriginal example, but there are others: the kangaroo, the crocodile, the possum, and the eel, each formed by dark nebulae. Western science now recognizes that the Coalsack Nebula, the emu's head, is a massive cloud of interstellar dust about 600 light-years away, blocking the light of the stars behind it. To the naked eye, it appears as a dark void next to the Southern Cross. When European explorers arrived in Australia, they saw the Coalsack as a hole in the sky and gave it names like the Black Magellanic Cloud. They didn't connect it to any story. To Aboriginal peoples, it was the head of a cosmic emu, a fact encoded in stories and ceremonies. Modern astronomers are now studying these dark clouds to understand star formation, using telescopes like ALMA and the James Webb Space Telescope. In a sense, the emu in the sky represents an ancient appreciation of the same phenomena now at the cutting edge of astrophysics. There's also a psychological lesson here. We tend to look for bright things, stars, galaxies, headlines. But the emu teaches us to pay attention to the spaces in between, to the shadows and gaps. Gillar Michael Anderson often tells students, it's not the stars that make the emu, it's what you can't see. That's a powerful metaphor for Indigenous knowledge more generally. It fills the gaps that Western science can't yet explain and reminds us that absence can be just as meaningful as presence. As astrophysicist Dwayne Hamacher writes, the dark emu is a link between Indigenous knowledge and Western science, a case study for how combining different ways of knowing can enrich our understanding of the universe. This collaboration is visible in education. Schools in New South Wales and Western Australia now teach Aboriginal astronomy alongside physics. University researchers work with elders to document dreaming stories before they are lost. In 2020, the Royal Australian Mint issued a $1 coin featuring the emu in the sky. And at star parties and tourism events, guides point laser pointers not at Orion or Taurus, but at the dark silhouette of the emu, showing visitors how to see with new eyes. For many non-Indigenous Australians, it's a revelation. They've lived under this sky their whole lives without seeing what's right there. That moment of recognition, of noticing the dark emu for the first time, often feels like lifting a veil. It sparks curiosity about what else we've overlooked and appreciation for the world's oldest continuous cultures. Today, the emu in the sky continues to inspire. Artists paint its silhouette across canvases, storytellers incorporate it into children's books, musicians write songs about it. A few years ago, a Wiradjuri astrophysics student named Raylene described sitting with her grandfather under a winter sky. He pointed out the dark emu and told her how, when he was a boy, he would lie on cool nights and watch the emu's journey. He'd learned that when the emu's neck first appeared, his mother would send him out with his aunties to look for fresh eggs. Those memories pushed Raylene to pursue astronomy at university. She now gives public talks about dark constellations, bridging scientific language with cultural storytelling. Elsewhere, communities use modern technology to spread ancient knowledge. The Gamilaroi language app features a section on astronomy, teaching users how to find Gawarge and other dark constellations. At the park's radio telescope, visitors can attend star dreaming events, where local elders and scientists share stories of the emu, while radio dishes scan the sky. In Melbourne, the ScienceWorks Planetarium runs a show called Stories in the Stars, taking audiences on a journey through the emu and other Aboriginal constellations. These programs aren't just entertainment, they are acts of cultural revival. For decades, colonial policies suppressed Aboriginal languages and traditions. Now, communities are reclaiming them, and the night sky has become a canvas for cultural renewal. It's also changing how Australians think about their national identity. For years, the Southern Cross dominated our sense of the southern sky. It appears on the national flag, in logos and tattoos. But as the Universe Today article reminds us, to Aboriginal Australians, the Southern Cross and the Coalsack Nebula together form the head of the emu. Recognizing this invites non-Indigenous Australians to see their flag differently, not just as a European cross, but as part of a much older cosmic story. It asks us to embrace multiple narratives and respect the knowledge embedded in the land and sky. As one student put it after a dark sky tour near Uluru, "I've looked at the Milky Way my whole life, but now I see an emu, and it feels like I've met a new friend." So what can we take away from the emu in the sky? First, it's a testament to the ingenuity of Australia's first peoples. Long before telescopes, they developed sophisticated systems of astronomy that linked the heavens to the Earth's rhythms. They read the voids between stars and turned them into guides for survival, law, and ceremony. Second, it's a reminder that science and storytelling aren't opposites. The dreaming stories of Gawargai encode precise ecological knowledge and observational data. Modern astrophysics confirms the accuracy of those observations. Third, it invites us to look up differently. Next time you're far from city lights on a clear autumn night in the southern hemisphere, find the Southern Cross and just to its left, a dark patch. That's the emu's head. Follow the dark lane across the Milky Way. That's its neck and body. Let your eyes adjust and you might see the legs stretching down towards Scorpius. You'll be reading a cosmic calendar that has guided people for millennia. Finally, the emu in the sky challenges us to value knowledge systems outside the mainstream. In a world facing climate crises, learning from cultures that have thrived sustainably for tens of thousands of years is not just respectful, it's vital. As you share this video with friends, perhaps you'll inspire someone else to look up and learn. And maybe, just maybe, you'll feel a connection to the millions of eyes that have traced that dark shape since long before the pyramids were built or the Romans named their gods. There's something profoundly unifying about knowing that across time and cultures, humans have turned the night sky into stories that guide and sustain. If this journey through the emu in the sky sparked your curiosity or changed how you see the Milky Way, let us know in the comments. Have you ever spotted the dark emu? Do you have a favorite star story? Hit the like button to support more content exploring indigenous astronomy and hidden histories. Share this video with mates who love the night sky or who need a fresh perspective on Australia's heritage. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you'll catch our next deep dive. The sky is full of stories. Together, we can make sure they continue to shine.